Hi everyone, this is Maggie.
Hi, I'm Watch.
I'm Amanda.
And we're reviewing the book Freakonomics. Freakonomics was written in 2011 by Stephen Dubner and Stephen Levitt. And
The authors start with a really interesting story because they weren't actually planning to write this book. And because Dubner had to do an article on Levitt for winning the John Bates Award, Dubner was exposed to how much information Levitt had. And the only problem Levitt had was compiling this information. And Dubner, who was a journalist in New York, was for the New York Times actually, was able to collaborate with Levitt and portray his ideas in a way that everyone can understand, and that's what became of Freakonomics.
Yeah. And in the introduction of the book, the two authors present three main ideas that sort of tie all the chapters together. And the first theme was that incentives are the cornerstone of modern life, conventional wisdom is often wrong, and dramatic effects have distant and subtle causes. And the first theme, which was incentives, really is presented in the first chapter and in the last chapter primarily. And in the first chapter, it discusses how school teachers in Chicago were willing to cheat on standardized tests so that their kids would move up in their ranks, making their classes look better, and they would ultimately get a raise. Also, in that chapter, it talked about sumo wrestlers and how sumo wrestlers would really only win if it benefited themselves, and they would be willing to lose if it benefited someone else. In chapter 6, it discusses how parents were willing to name their kids certain names because of success rates, and there's like a giant cultural divide with these names and everything. And it really just shows how people are willing to make choices that'll have positive outcomes, whether it's financially or just socially.
another point that was brought up in the book was that the conventional wisdom is often wrong. It was conveyed in the entire book. However, it was especially conveyed in chapters 2 and chapters 3. In chapters 2, the book spoke about the Ku Klux Klan and real estate agents, and what the book stated was basically that the Ku Klux Klan, when they were formed, was this mass terrorist group that massacred hundreds of African Americans, and they were extremely violent, and many feared them. However, as time progressed, the crime rating in that individual group declined, and half the amount of African Americans were killed. However, the public opinion remained the same throughout the entire time period, and the public just thought they were a horrible, terrible group that killed many, and they believed that they were still killing a surplus amount of African Americans. Yeah. And it also talked about real estate agents in that chapter and how they are really helpful individuals who can help you sell your house for lots of money. However, that's not exactly true, because real estate agents help you sell your house, but they actually profit more than they're supposed to, and they're not actually helping you get your biggest bang for your buck, because they're not helping you gain the most money from your sale.
Yeah, they're willing to sell your house for lower than it's actually valued, just so that they can get more money.
Exactly, because they have no further incentive to do that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And then chapter 3 also talks about how drug dealers live with their moms. The conventional wisdom for drug dealers is that they're these rich individuals who live a lavish lifestyle and they have a surplus amount of money. However, the heads of the businesses are actually those individuals. The people who are actually doing the physical labor, they actually aren't making a lot of money, and they're just living on pull-out couches in their mom's houses. That's completely incorrect, and our public opinion of that is completely wrong.
Exactly. And the author's third claim involves how dramatic effects are caused by subtle events. And this includes what Dubner mentions in chapter 4 on abortions. Well, the thing is, in the 1990s, criminologists thought that there would be a huge increase in crime rate. The individuals, the government, everyone thought there would be continuous crime that would evolve. However, the opposite occurred. Crime rates started to decline, and people were really shocked and amused and appalled. However, what really caused this was abortions, and it was through this case called the Roe versus Wade, which legalized having abortions. And the thing is, women were able to decide for the first time if they could have a baby or not. And the thing is, women made a understandably reasonable decision because they were able to predict if that baby would have a nice lifestyle if
They could
that
support
exactly
the
if they could support the baby, if that baby would be involved in crime. And through their decision, there was a direct correlation to a drop of crime, and that directly relates to this topic about how subtle causes can have a dramatic effect.
So Haj, what did you think of the book?
Well, I thought the book was really interesting. I mean, Levitt was able to give his ideas to Dubner, who was able to portray them and compile them. That was the one problem Levitt had, basically taking all his knowledge and compiling it into information and for anyone to read. So Dubner was able to do that in a fashion that now millions of people are able to read the book, and they're able to understand it, and they're able to see these unique correlations that Levitt was able to decipher through his knowledge and through his statistics, which is really cool.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, for me, I definitely thought that all of the topics were fascinating, and I liked how it was taking this data where I was like, where are you getting this from? And I could apply it to my life. But it's a little tricky to read if you're not a person who likes to have a whole bunch of information just thrown at them, because the book has tons of graphs and charts and a lot of data on every page, and if you miss some of it, it can be difficult to understand.
Exactly. You have to stay focused the whole time.
Right. Maggie?
I also agree with Amanda. I really liked the book, and I liked the information that was presented. It was a really interesting way because you could read about certain topics and it would be backed up with statistical and analytical evidence. And the book was also it was easy to understand for me because they talked about concepts that were relatable to everyday situations, and they made the concepts easy to understand with the evidence. And I also agree with Amanda in the aspect that you have to be in a certain mood to read this book, because if you miss a line or you miss a topic or you don't thoroughly read the information, you're not going to understand them. So I wouldn't recommend this book for people that like fictional books more than non-fictional books, because they're not going to enjoy it as much.
Exactly. You have to stay focused, stay concentrated to pick up everything, like all the evidence, all the statistics behind what Levitt's trying to say.
But when you do, it's worth it. It's really interesting.
Everyone should read Freakonomics.
Yeah, everyone should read it. All right. Thank you for watching
Thanks for
this.
watching.